Hello everyone, my name is Simran Chopra. I'm doing my research at Northumbria University and in my final year. It is my pleasure to present to you on behalf of myself and my co-authors, who you can see listed on the slide. Our paper is called Negotiating Sustainable Futures in Communities Through Participatory Speculative Design and Experiments in Living. Understandings within sustainable LCI have evolved in the last decade. There is some related literature on the slide. You can find these references in the paper. So there is an increased recognition that for long-term environmental change, ideas of sustainability and visions for urban future should not only be developed by experts. While specific expertise has a role to play, local urban communities who are anticipated to be significantly affected by climate change are considered to be in an informed position to articulate and imagine a more environmentally sustainable future for themselves. So our work looks at community food growing as an example of sustainability research within HCI. It is recognized for its potential for bringing about citizen-led on-ground change through its sustainability practices. Although these communities of practice promise self-sufficiency and sovereignty in local food systems, they still face challenges. Our paper reports on a workshop series focusing on negotiating conflict, tensions, anxieties, and fears that surface between local and global sustainability concerns. To speculate, we use four modes: invite, situate, deliberate, and craft, illustrating how each method scaffolded longitudinal community engagement with issues of future socio-technical ecological sustainability. And our contribution is in highlighting these challenges and successes through our approach within the context of designing for longer timescales necessary for sustainable living while navigating local and global concerns for the environment. So our methodological approach was informed by our community's inventing and testing practices that blended technological, biological, and agricultural knowledge. It is through these sensibilities of grassroots community experimentation that our methodological approach was developed that frames sustainability research within the context of living experiments. Mares describes it as a notable device for social and cultural research for exploring and testing forms of social life, which can be used to explore collective practices for researching social and cultural change. And it is not necessary to be done by experts. So it moves away from the experiment as a site for controlled variables, but aligned with research in the wild or living experiments, where socio-technical or design interventions are staged in everyday life as a site for applying situated methods. We worked in a neighborhood in England, which is multi-ethnic and has a number of active citizen initiatives, but it's also facing deprivation and austerity measures. The engagement with the neighborhood began in 2015. However, these workshops were drafted in 2018 when a local micro business contacted our research team and wanted to explore alternative ways to envision future opportunities and use of technology to support self-organized activity. This directed the focus of the research towards answering how can participatory approaches engage grassroots communities meaningfully and collectively to think about sustainable futures for urban food growing. So our series of participatory speculative design workshops were developed in conversation with the experiments in living, which were already taking place within the community that we worked with. Our approach aims to disrupt the perceived privilege and rhetoric of speculative design and embraces speculation not just as a crafted skill of expert designers, but shifts attention towards real life concerns and everyday context for collectively negotiating contested imaginaries. Using speculative methods to bring into dialogue the taken for granted tacit knowledge shared within the community and connecting it with the local, national, global environmental concerns and future uncertainties. Speculation was therefore both situated in place while extending it to wider concerns and longer timescales to extend our collective understanding of community values and action on local food growing. There are some images at the bottom illustrating the methods that we use, and you can find them in the paper. So we had 4 workshops in the series. Each workshop was slightly different. It had a different focus, form of delivery, and data generated. Workshop 1 focused on mapping growing spaces in the neighborhood. Workshop 2 focused on walking and experiencing growing spaces in the neighborhood. Workshop 3, we designed and played a growing futures game. And workshop 4, we crafted alternative growing worlds in a new planet. Each workshop was designed through a reflective, iterative process by adapting speculative design to be rooted in participatory ethos in an attempt to make design speculation more egalitarian. The different modalities used in the series were defined after conducting the workshops and through the juxtaposition or constant comparison of participant narratives with the outputs that were crafted. So therefore, the subsequent workshops were informed and designed by the outcomes of each prior workshop. For example, insights from the first workshop, where we mapped the community growing spaces, informed the areas that we visited on the walk in workshop 2. Since I won't have time to elaborate everything in the presentation, I invite you to read the paper, which gives more details about our workshops, data collection, and analysis. So our contribution is in highlighting the challenges and successes of these ways of designing for longer timescales necessary for sustainable living while navigating local and global concerns for the environment. We argue designers, researchers, and practitioners need to pay attention to the importance of challenging normativity of speculative scenarios, challenging normative roles of the researcher through reflexivity, balancing agency, politics, and deliberation in participatory speculative design, and to look at community-driven technological visions through grounded in the experience of every day. The images illustrate some of the activities that we did, and you can find them in the paper. Also, for constraints of time, I will elaborate on my third point, which is balancing agency, politics, and deliberation in participatory speculative design. Concepts like sustainability and Brexit at the time that we were using are already quite abstract, and in themselves, they're quite speculative in nature. This combination appeared to be experienced as disempowering by our participants because the actual future significance wasn't quite clear at the level of the neighborhood and in their everyday life. In this sense, these different modes of speculation using grand, societal, national, or global narratives, if imposed on the participants as speculative tropes, would exasperate feelings of limited agency, affecting imagination, lack of engagement, and limited benefit to the community. Therefore, scenarios or speculative stories provided by us were not received as companions and were refuted, rejected, and challenged. While as researchers, we found it difficult at the moments when we were negotiating these contestations and frustrations, they were also valuable in highlighting how these narratives were not considered to be taking good care of the growers in generous ways and were not aligned to their sensibilities to encourage alternative future imaginings. With this in mind, engendering particular kinds of agency through rhetorical, artistic, material, or literary devices is important. Therefore, designing in a way that is responsive to where communities position themselves in their own stories and how they are being positioned in new stories is significant for HCI in addressing particular forms of community engagement and speculation for sustainability over a longer time scale. Thank you for watching our presentation. I invite you to read the paper to get to know more about our work and the methodology. Please feel free to reach out with more questions. Thank you.